A warm Friday evening in southeast Houston. On the corner of Sweeney Drive, laughter echoed from a modest backyard dressed in blue balloons and folding chairs. Children ran barefoot across the grass, high on fruit punch and frosted cupcakes. It was a birthday party. A big one. 7-year-old Kalen Traylor was turning another year older, and his father had made sure the whole neighborhood knew it. Bounce house, clown, a gold-plated PlayStation cake, a rented sound system blasting clean rap edits and family-friendly trap music. It looked like joy. It sounded like love. But by 6:42 p.m., the air shifted. Sirens replaced laughter. Neighbors stood frozen behind screen doors. And one woman walked down the driveway, her dress soaked, her hands visibly shaking, but her face was calm. She didn't run. She didn't scream. She didn't resist. She just walked away. Past the gate. Past the screaming children, covered in blood. That woman had no criminal record, no known history of violence, no enemies, no priors. But she had waited exactly 1 year, to the day, for this moment. And she chose his son's birthday, not by chance, but by design. Her name was Sharonda Ellis. She was 44 years old, born and raised in Oak Cliff, Dallas, a graduate of Lincoln High. She worked as a senior loan officer at Southern Trust Credit and lived in a small 2-bedroom duplex just 4 blocks from the church she grew up in. She didn't post selfies. She didn't wear flashy nails or flaunt bags. Her life was structured, disciplined, quiet. Monday through Friday, she worked. Saturdays, she cleaned and grocery shopped. Sundays, she went to Zion Baptist with her mother, a diabetic widow in need of daily care. She had no kids, no pets, just responsibility. Sharonda had spent most of her adult life sacrificing, saving, surviving. At 40, she divorced her husband of 6 years after discovering he'd been cheating on her with a coworker half her age. After that, she closed off. She took a second job, paid off every debt in her name, and quietly built a nest egg that by 2022 had grown to nearly $70,000. She didn't talk much about love anymore, but she still believed in it. Somewhere. Quietly. On Christmas Eve, 2021, she made a post on Facebook. Just one sentence. "Next year, I'm praying for peace, clarity, and someone real." It got 19 likes. One of them came from a name she hadn't seen in years. Deshaun Traylor. Deshaun Traylor was 34, a full decade younger than Sharonda. He was raised in Baton Rouge, but had been living in Houston since his early 20s. A high school dropout turned local event promoter, known for throwing small-time club parties and pop-up brunches. He had no fixed career, no savings, no home in his name. He floated, hustled, talked smooth. By 2022, he had 3 children by 2 women, one in Atlanta and one just west of Houston. He owed back child support and had several eviction notices in his past. But Deshaun knew how to present well. His Instagram was curated like a resume, all designer labels, Airbnb lofts, and screenshots of fake Zelle transfers meant to look like business transactions. He lived off perception, and he had a type. Older, stable, nurturing. When he saw Sharonda's Facebook post, he didn't see a prayer. He saw a target. Within days, he messaged her, called her Queen, asked if she still made that sweet potato pie he used to like back in high school. At first, she didn't engage, but Deshaun knew what to say. He talked about growth, regret, redemption. He said he was done with games, said he wanted to settle down and build something real. Sharonda wasn't naive, but she was tired. Tired of always giving and never receiving. Tired of carrying everyone else, and coming home to silence. So when Deshawn started showing up on Sundays, offering to fix her blinds, bringing her mama flowers, and praying at dinner, she gave him space. And by spring, he had taken up more than space. He was sleeping over, driving her car, using her Wi-Fi. And slowly, he started planting the seed that he had a dream, that he just needed help getting there. By the end of April 2022, the relationship looked picture perfect from the outside. Sharonda, 44, a woman of structure, purpose, and routine. Deshawn, 34, spontaneous, charming, emotionally available, on the surface. To outsiders, it might have seemed odd. A decade between them, two very different worlds. But to Sharonda, he made her feel safe. He texted her every morning. He brought her favorite snacks when she worked overtime. He helped her mother into the car when her knees locked up. She hadn't felt this seen in years. But beneath that feeling was something else. Deshawn had no income, no W-2, no 1099, nothing filed. Just, I got it, energy and vague promises. By early May, he started talking about a dream, a Black-owned event space in Houston. Something elegant, for Christian weddings, family reunions, even homegoing services. He called it Legacy on Cullen, said the community needed it. Said he'd found a spot, an old warehouse just outside 3rd Ward. He said all he needed was a small push. He asked for $12,000 to start. He said it wasn't a loan. It was an investment. Sharonda hesitated. For 5 days she said nothing. Then on a Monday morning in mid-May, she walked into her credit union, withdrew $8,500 from her emergency account, and wired it to Deshawn. No contract. No agreement. Just belief. In the weeks that followed, Deshawn began crafting a vision. He made a free Canva logo, bought a domain name that never loaded, posted photos of luxury venues, all taken from Google, and passed them off as renderings for his new space. Sharonda shared the posts proudly. She believed this was something they were building together, but what she didn't know was that the warehouse didn't exist. There was no lease, no application, no inspections pending. The address Deshawn gave her belonged to a tire shop that had shut down 2 years earlier. He never expected her to check. By June, Deshawn said there were delays, said the city wanted new wiring plans, said permits were slow. He asked for another $6,000, then $4,200 more. Then he needed to hold something small to cover inspection fees. Sharonda sent it all, from her checking, from her savings, from a church fund she quietly dipped into. Each time Deshawn gave her another reason, and each time she believed it. Because love clouds logic, and when a person's been strong for too long, they stop expecting to be protected. By the end of August 2022, Sharonda had given him just under $38,000. She began to notice patterns. Whenever she asked for an update, he got defensive. Whenever she pushed too hard, he disappeared. Sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. When he reappeared, he'd bring flowers, or take her to dinner, or say she was too good for this world. She called it love, but what it was debt. Emotional debt. Because every I'm sorry was another transaction. Every kiss was a placeholder. Every smile was a cover for theft. And Deshawn, he wasn't building anything, except a second life, with someone else. Someone younger, and someone who had no idea who Sharonda even was. It was September 9th, 2022. A Friday evening. Sharonda was sitting at her kitchen table, microwaving leftover gumbo. Deshawn had canceled dinner for the 3rd time that week, claiming a networking mixer ran long. He hadn't called all day. She opened Instagram to distract herself. That's when she saw it. A photo of Deshawn, button down open, gold chain out, smiling next to a mural in Midtown. He had captioned it, grind mode. No distractions, just legacy. But it wasn't the photo that caught her eye. It was the comment underneath. Mine forever are. posted by an account named TashaMonroe.xo. The profile picture was a young woman, maybe early 20s. Long wig, baby hair edges laid. Sharonda clicked the name. The page was public. What she saw next unraveled everything. Tasha Monroe, 22 years old. Bottle girl at a club off Edgewood in Atlanta. Her page was full of cash bundles, lit hookah nights, Fashion Nova hauls, and matching outfit selfies with Deshaun. Same man, same face, same legacy hoodie. But in her captions he wasn't her business partner. He was BAE, Zaddy, my king. And then, buried between the selfies and club flyers, was a post that knocked the breath out of Sharonda's chest. A video from August 27th. Tasha, holding up a left hand with a small oval ring. The caption, he asked. I said yes #forever with you. Sharonda stared at it for 5 full minutes. That was the same weekend. Deshaun told her he had a funeral in Baton Rouge. He had taken the money she wired him, $5,000 sent on a Thursday, and used it to propose to someone else. Not just someone else. A woman 22 years younger than her. Sharonda didn't cry, not yet. Instead, she started screen recording, taking screenshots, saving every post, every caption, every tag. She pulled up her Zelle history. It stretched back months, tens of thousands of dollars, all gone. She sat in that chair for over an hour. No TV, no music, just the hum of the fridge and the weight of betrayal crawling down her spine. He hadn't just lied. He had used her, played her, taken her money, her time, her trust, and handed it to a woman young enough to call her ma'am. For most people, this is the part of the story where heartbreak takes over, where the woman confronts him, yells, cries, blocks his number, and tries to forget. But Sharonda Ellis wasn't most people. She didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't say a word. Instead, she opened a new email account under a fake name and began planning something far more powerful than confrontation. She wasn't going to break down. She was going to build a case. And one day, she'd hand it to him, like a gift, wrapped in silence, right on time. From the outside, nothing changed. Sharonda still went to work, still clocked in at 8 a.m., took her lunch at 1 p.m., and helped her mother with her evening insulin around 6. She still wore her soft cardigans, still sat in the same pew every Sunday morning. But inside, something had shifted. She wasn't hurt. She was numb. She didn't ask Deshaun questions, didn't press for explanations. She let him keep lying, and while he performed, she prepared. She pulled her full financial statements from her bank, line by line. Every transfer, every Zelle receipt, every business expense she covered. She created a private folder, labeled it Restoration, every photo of Tasha, every location tag, every Instagram live he joined from out of town when he claimed to be sick. She tracked the day he told her his cousin died, while his location showed him in Atlanta at an Airbnb pool party. She wasn't just watching, she was collecting. On October 15, 2022, just over 1 month since she discovered the engagement, Sharonda stopped answering his calls. Deshaun showed up unannounced, banged on her door for nearly 12 minutes. She opened it, calm, asked if he needed gas money. He smiled, told her she was acting funny, said she must be on her cycle. She said nothing. He laughed and left. He didn't know that the apartment complex's security camera had captured his plate, his face, and his every word. Sharonda saved the footage to a flash drive and added it to her folder. Because Deshaun didn't just scam her. He woke up something in her that he couldn't manipulate. A woman who'd been overlooked, overworked, and overgiven, who finally had nothing left to lose. By December 2022, Sharonda Ellis had become someone Deshaun no longer recognized. She still answered his calls, sometimes, still replied to his texts with okay, or we'll see. But she no longer argued, no longer chased clarity, because clarity had already arrived. And now, it was time to use it. Sharonda opened a brand new email address, set up a new phone number under a prepaid line, downloaded a virtual private network to block tracking. Then, she created a fake identity. Name, Rachel Gordon. Profession, event marketing consultant based in Miami. Company, Royal House Brands, a made-up firm she built using a free website template and some stolen stock images. It didn't have to be perfect. It just had to look real enough for a man who never did background checks. Under this new identity, she reached out to Deshawn. Said her firm was scouting black-owned couples in the South for a potential legacy and love wedding campaign. Offered full funding for decor, photos, venue space, and vendor support, up to $20,000. All they needed was to confirm basic details: names, date, guest count, and the love story. But Sharonda didn't just want receipts. She wanted roots. She began mapping his timeline, comparing the weekends he claimed to be grinding in Houston to the flight records of a JetBlue login she still had access to. That's how she discovered he was using her Chase card points, the ones she forgot to unlink, to book hotels in Midtown Atlanta. She called Chase and requested a full statement, then cross-referenced the hotel locations with the photos posted on Tayshia's Instagram. Everything matched. Every lie, every swipe, every hour he told her he was working. He was building a future, just not with her. Then came her next move. She located Tayshia's father through a shared name in an old comment thread from 2017, a man named Rodney Monroe. She tracked him to a body shop in Decatur. She sent him an anonymous message, a Dropbox link. No name, no explanation, just a folder titled "Before Your Daughter Says I Do." Inside, bank statements, photos, screenshots, maps, recordings. No response. But 3 days later, Tayshia's Instagram went dark, and Deshawn posted a story that said, "When people get jealous, they get creative. But God sees all." Sharonda said nothing, because she was already planning the final scene. Not in court, not on social media, but somewhere much more meaningful. A moment Deshawn couldn't dodge, a day he couldn't ignore. His son's birthday, April 14th. April 14th, 2023. It was a Friday. The air was thick and warm, the kind that signaled a Texas summer was creeping in early. His son Kalen was turning 7, and for once, Deshawn was trying to look like a provider. Blue balloons covered the chain-link fence of his cousin's rented home off Sweeney Drive. A local DJ set up speakers in the yard. 2 folding tables held boxes of pizza, cupcakes, and styrofoam trays of chicken wings. There was a bounce house, a makeshift photo booth, and a giant sign that read "King Kalen's 7th Level Up." To the neighbors, it looked like a normal family event. But to one woman standing just a few houses down, it was a theater, and she had come to deliver the final scene. Sharonda Ellis arrived at 4:18 p.m. She wore black pants, a denim jacket, a baseball cap, and latex gloves, the kind worn by caterers or food vendors. In her hands, a single white box wrapped in gold ribbon. Inside that box was no cake, no toy, no gift card. Inside was truth. She blended in through the side gate, walking past a group of cousins in matching t-shirts. She nodded once at a woman holding a toddler. No one questioned her. She placed the box on the table near the presents and quietly slipped toward the porch. She waited until 5:03 p.m. when Deshawn walked out with Tayshia, the fiancée. Dressed in a tight blue sundress and white sandals, she waved to the kids and smiled for pictures. Sharonda stood still, watching, not from a place of jealousy, but from clarity. This was the woman who got the flowers, the ring, the Instagram captions, all paid for with the money of a woman Deshawn thought would never fight back. At 5:27 p.m., Sharonda picked up the box. She walked to Deshawn. No shouting, no warning, just handed it to him with both hands. He looked confused, opened it slowly. Inside, printed screenshots of every transaction, photos of him in Atlanta, the fake email thread from Rachel Gordon, and one final image, Tasha kissing him outside a hotel door. Time stamped and dated. During the same weekend, he told Sharonda he was in the hospital with his cousin. Witnesses said Deshaun didn't speak. His face dropped. His hand trembled. Tasha looked over his shoulder. Started yelling. Someone knocked over a table. Kids screamed. The bounce house deflated. And in the middle of that chaos, Sharonda walked away. She didn't raise her voice. Didn't throw a punch. Didn't spill a secret online. She let him unravel. On his child's birthday. In front of everyone who believed in his story. No one called the police on her. No one stopped her. Because by the time they understood what had happened, she was already gone. Everyone thought that was the end of it. The party incident. The ruined birthday. The exposed engagement. They thought Sharonda Ellis had finally released the weight she'd been carrying. But what they didn't know, what no one knew, was that her real plan had nothing to do with confrontation. Her real plan was paperwork. Sharonda wasn't just interested in humiliation. She was interested in documentation, consequences, recovery, and justice. In the weeks leading up to the party, Sharonda had already met with a consumer protection attorney in Dallas. She brought printouts, flash drives, copies of every text, call log, and financial transaction linked to Deshaun trailer. Her claim: fraud, emotional manipulation, misrepresentation of funds under false pretenses. But she didn't stop there. She filed a civil suit for the full $50,000, plus damages. Her attorney submitted evidence showing how Deshaun had presented a fake business venture, leveraged a personal relationship, and used digital deception to extract money, all while pretending to build a future. The case was filed April 17th, 3 days after the party, and 4 days before Deshaun applied for a mortgage, using fake income statements, in an attempt to buy a home for him and Tasha. That mortgage application was flagged. In stillness, and in knowing that even though Deshaun walked away with her money, she walked away with his future. The fallout didn't come all at once. It came in layers. Quietly, slowly, publicly. Deshaun Trailer tried to spin the story. He told his friends she was obsessed, claimed she couldn't let go, said the money was a gift, that she gave it willingly, and he owed her nothing. But people started asking questions. Why did the legacy on Cullen venue disappear overnight? Why did the wedding photos vanish from Tasha's page? Why was Deshaun suddenly promoting club flyers again, after saying he was stepping into executive status? The lie began to unravel. And this time, he couldn't control the narrative. Then came the unexpected blow. One of his children's mothers, a woman who had once called Sharonda old and desperate, reached out privately. She had seen the documents, the receipts, the suit filed in Dallas, and she said, simply, "I believe her now." She shared her own story, how Deshaun had borrowed rent money from her in 2019, promising to flip it, how he never paid it back, how he ghosted her the moment she mentioned court. That message never went public. But word spread, and the version of Deshaun he had worked so hard to build, the charming entrepreneur, the future husband, the black love leader, collapsed under its own lies. By August, Tasha had moved back in with her sister. Deshaun was living with a cousin, in an apartment with no lease in his name. His Instagram was silent. His stories were blank. His followers were declining. The brands he once tagged for free promo stopped responding. And the inbox that used to be filled with praise was now quiet. But Sharonda, she was just beginning. On September 1st, 2023, 5 months after the birthday party, she launched a podcast. She called it, He Said Forever. A soft-spoken, slow-paced audio space where she told anonymous stories about financial manipulation, emotional betrayal, and surviving spiritual gaslighting. In the first week, it had 200 downloads. By week 4, she crossed 10,000. Not because she named names, but because her voice spoke to women who had been through it, and never had the words to explain it. She didn't rant. She didn't expose. She taught. she reflected. And without even mentioning Deshawn's name, she ended his ability to ever do it again. 1 year later, April 2024, there was no party on Sweeney Drive. No balloons, no bounce house. Deshawn's cousin had moved out. The house sat empty. Grass overgrown. Porch light broken. There were whispers that Deshawn had picked up night shifts at a warehouse outside Atlanta. No bookings. His last visible online presence was a story from February, reposting a sermon clip with the words, "God gives his toughest battles to his strongest warriors." But even his battles had stopped getting likes. Sharonda didn't post that day. She spent the morning on a Zoom call with a nonprofit that had invited her to speak about financial abuse in romantic relationships. That afternoon, she uploaded episode 27 of her podcast. The topic, knowing when to walk away, and when to walk through fire first. In the outro, her voice was calm, clear, measured. She said, "Sometimes, the people who hurt you the most won't say sorry. But that doesn't mean you don't deserve closure. And sometimes, that closure comes when you take your power back in silence. Without rage, without revenge. Just the truth." The episode closed with piano music. No hashtags, no shade. Just healing. Sharonda Ellis never got her money back. But she reclaimed something bigger. Her voice. Her power. Her peace. She didn't need to destroy him. He did that part himself. All she had to do was stop saving him. For every woman who's ever been gaslit, manipulated, or quietly drained of everything she worked for every man who thought he could play with loyalty like it was a toy he'd never have to pay for, this story is a reminder that silence is not weakness, and survival is not revenge. It's the beginning of something far stronger, far wiser, and far louder than any apology ever could be. If you've ever trusted the wrong person, if you've ever been made to feel small for loving someone too much, or if you know what it means to lose everything and rebuild without applause, then subscribe, because your story might be next, and someone needs to hear it.